Hi, this is Jenny Whitener with Bridge Innovate, and welcome to Idea Jam. Today's webinar is presenting the Idea Jam program, and we're going to be talking about brainstorming the new normal in the age of COVID-19. So thanks for joining us today. Mary Kim and I will be your co-host, and we're excited to jump right in. You're in good company with us. We're excited to have you join our community of forward thinkers and creative thinkers. Bridge Innovate is a global network of business strategists, consultants, and leaders who work alongside your team to create defining moments for your organizations. We are thankful for our partnerships with corporations and nonprofits around the world. Today, our agenda is to start with a little bit of an orientation on design thinking, and then we'll go over the Idea Jam program that's available to you now. And then we'll highlight a few of the Idea Jam elements that we covered in the free 1-hour session that we're offering to the community. And then, of course, at the end, we'll talk about how you schedule an Idea Jam. So let's get started and take a closer look at design thinking. Many of you may have been exposed to design thinking or maybe applying it in your organization. But design thinking, the methodology that designers have used for years in creating new products, is now part of all types of creative thinking, whether it's around strategy, it's around services, around customer engagement. We're seeing the creative capability of design thinking come through. So here's a great definition that comes from interactive design. Design thinking is nonlinear. Interactive process which seeks to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. So the Idea Jam program that we're launching to the market, that's a free 1-hour workshop, will use all the foundations of design thinking to power it. An example of design thinking in action goes back to GE Healthcare. Doug Dietz was a designer that led a team to create a beautifully designed, high-tech, very effective MRI machine. But there was just one problem. As the machine was implemented in the hospital systems and in diagnostic laboratories, kids were scared of it. And the results of their early launch of the MRI machine showed that 90% of children had to be sedated when they had to go through the test, which sedation in and of itself brings a risk to the child. So the team decided to retackle this design and bring in the a spectrum of empathy and get closer to the user. And they launched the new Adventure series, making the MRI technically the same, but the experience for the child going through the diagnostic test completely different. And the results after the launch of the Adventure series is that 10% of kids were sedated. So still unfortunate that even a small amount have to be sedated to go through that test, but a huge win in terms of changing the experience for the child and making it much more safe. In fact, and one of the quotes that they've said it notes the winning design is that kids, when they leave, say, "Hey, Mom, can we do that again?" So you know you've landed a great design when your customer says that. We think about that particular example of design thinking. We say, what did the designers, what did they gather? What observation, what research did they gather? And what they heard from kids were that my brother gets to go out to camp, but I don't because I'm sick. Or they saw that in a child's room, there were no trophies in the rooms of sick kids. So when they gathered this type of research, that led them to an insight that said for sick kids, all the adventure gets sucked out of life. And that particular analysis, going from observation to insight, gave them the fuel to create the Adventure series that had such an impact for GE Healthcare and the kids that needed to have an MRI. The technology that we'll be using with our free Idea Jam program is going to be using the advanced platform of Sprintbase. That's an online collaborative design thinking platform. You'll get a chance to test drive that and go through several components of Sprintbase. And we'll also be using Zoom technologies to engage with teams virtually. So the Idea Jam, what is this thing? We have launched and put together a 1-hour approach to introduce teams to the power of creativity. We call it an Idea Jam. We ask that you bring a challenge And you bring a team of anywhere from 2 to 10 people. And you have to have at least 1 hour to engage with internet access. If you come to us and register through our website to do that, then we'll take you through an idea jam, and you can become introduced. You can get introduced and introduce your team to design thinking. You'll experience the power of creativity. You'll get to test drive these online design thinking tools to fuel new thinking around challenges that you might be facing in the COVID era. And you're going to create some ideas to a specific challenge that you have. So let me turn it over to Mary that'll talk to us a little bit about defining the challenge.
Thank you, Jenny. And hello, everyone. My name is Mary Kim. I'm a senior consultant at Bridge Innovate. And let me introduce you to one of the key elements of Idea Jam, defining the challenge. And I love to start off by sharing this quote that I really enjoy from Carl Gustav Jung. To ask the right question is already half the solution of a problem. And I think this shares just sometimes how hard it is to even agree on a common challenge for an organization when tackling a huge complex problem can be such a hurdle in your innovation efforts. So let's check out how to put together a great challenge statement to jumpstart your innovation efforts. So you see this graphic here, how might we help user to benefit, question mark. So we start off with a clearly defined challenge that helps us explore what really matters and introduces us to unmet needs. And we like to start off with how might we, not with a shiny, big idea that you already determined set your mind on. We're opening up with a question to help us think of many possibilities. And of course, help, using a verb that really showcases the desirability of your idea, your solution in the future, and identifying a clear user, the benefiter, and the benefit itself to help us come up with a great challenge to start off. So here are quick tips if you're putting together a challenge statement. What makes a great challenge question is, first and foremost, putting the real user at the center, which is why design thinking is such a great methodology, is the human-centered component to that. And making sure that it is an invitation to explore new possibilities, unmet needs that are out there, and making sure that it can be answered in so many different ways. And I mentioned earlier the shiny big idea. You don't want to get stuck with one idea and just start implementing that. We want to explore as many ideas as possible. So make sure that there's not a solution already baked in to a challenge that you're starting off with. So we're going to jump into a quick exercise to help us identify key qualities of a great challenge statement and a not so great challenge statement. So let's start with the not so great challenge. So we have here, and we'll use our Zoom chat feature, so feel free to use your finger muscles to join me. We have a how might we challenge statement here. How might we develop an app to increase sales by 10%? And I challenge you to share why you think this is a bad how might we question. So I'll give you a second to start using those finger muscles to see what we have. Yes, the challenge statement is very broad in some ways and doesn't identify the user. We do not know who it's benefiting, and why does it have to be 10% if we're tackling an innovation challenge? We have 50%. And it focuses on a solution. These are all great and has the end already defined too much exactly. So you all are already there. I'm glad that you're seeing that. So let's jump into the next one and see if we can come up with some key qualities of a great how might we question. So here's the next one that's a little bit different. How might we help employees improve their work from home experience? Tell us why this might be a good how might we question. Again, flex those finger muscles, clear user. We have the employee at the center. It's great because it doesn't define the solution and clearly identifies who, user-centric. Exactly. Focus on experience, the benefit, the improved work-life balance. Wonderful. You all are doing great. So let's jump onto the next slide. So today, in relation to the idea jam that Jenny started introducing you to. For the duration of the webinar, we're going to tackle the how might we challenge statement we just introduced you to. How might we help people improve their work from home experience? But when we're working with you with the idea jam off the webinar, we'll be focusing on your challenge that you want to explore using the Sprintbase digital platform. So let's jump into brainstorming with Jenny.
So one of the things that we'll be doing in the Idea Jam after we define the challenge for your team, again, the Idea Jam program is a free 1-hour program designed for a particular team with a particular challenge. One of the first things that we'll do after we formalize that challenge is focus on what research will we need to gather in order to fuel our creativity. And I love this particular quote from Zora, which says, research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. And for us to be able to create bold, creative, new solutions, we need the fuel of research, both in terms of empathy from users, as well as other desktop and leading practice research to give us new perspectives to generate new ideas. So here's an example of when we talk about inspiration and empathy working together, where you see this gentleman trying to gather perspective of the hospital experience, right? So how many of us have been to beautifully designed hospitals, beautiful artwork, all kinds of natural plants, but what does the patient see? You can see from this example, it's just the ceiling. Right? And so when we're trying to understand the user's experience, we really have to see things from their vantage point. We have to experience it from their viewpoint. We want to understand what our customers and our users say, what they think, what they feel, and also what they do. In fact, when we go into the empathy process, we like to think about it in terms of extreme users. And by focusing on an extreme user, it's more obvious what needs or pain points exist in a particular arena. So for example, if we were trying to design kitchen utensils, we might look at a grandmother who'd been cooking for many, many years and had experience in all types of cooking, all types of dishes. We might also look on the other side of the extreme user as maybe a child who just started cooking. I didn't really know how to use the utensils in a kitchen or hadn't that much experience in cooking. So one of the things that we do when we look at building empathy is understanding who our users and customers are, and then define who the extremes are that we can go and engage with to learn more about their needs, their values, their pain points, and their experiences. So for this particular challenge that we're experimenting with today on the webinar, how might we help people improve their work from home experience? Who would be our extreme users? So if you use the chat and go in and join us and just brainstorming, who are the extreme users from the work from home experience? So I see lots of things coming in: homesteaders, single mom with lots of kids, maybe a remote salesperson who has always worked remote, total slackers or workaholics. Those would be two extremes, absolutely. Maybe students who are not accustomed, like K through 12, who are not accustomed to working remotely. They would be an extreme, so this is all new to them. They're great on social media, but maybe not for learning. Great job, guys. Let's keep going. So when we would go into the idea jam around a challenge for your particular team, we're going to be asking you to put together a field research plan and think through what information you'll want to gather to fuel your creative thinking. What we're looking for are things that surprise us, different facts or behaviors that are unusual, things that people feel strongly about, and any other kind of fresh stimuli that we might get from external organizations or analogous situations. What we don't want to do is focus on an immediate solution and go at a solution too early, or rely on assumptions or past experience. In fact, many of us would call those our bias, or the things that get in our way of evaluating new opportunities. So one of the things that we'll do in Idea Jam is to go into Sprintbase and craft a team research plan. What we're hoping to do is to give you the fuel as a leader of your team to understand when you're launching the creative process, to define the challenge, and to help your team define a research plan. What interviews might you do? What field observations might you do? And what additional research might you do? And we'll have some testing going on in the 1 hour session so you can have a chance to see how interviews and particular research are posted into Sprintbase. You'll see examples here on the right. Okay. So one of the things for today's how might we statement that we're exploring in the webinar, how might we help people improve their work from home experience? In our early research around this challenge, we found that people were challenged with work-life balance. They just were working all the time, 24/7. That our users were saying that they liked private space. You know, we had one particular user that shared a video with us where she was working at the kitchen table, her kids were working at the kitchen table, her husband was working at the kitchen table, and she's like, there's no private space. And then of course we talked to users who are saying it's just so tempting being so close to the kitchen and the cupboard that I've already put on at least 15 pounds. And then of course the whole interruption thing where, you know, thank goodness for mute. We heard from users that they're interrupted by barking dogs or by kids coming in or challenges in the home, just combining all that space. So when we think about that research for today's experience, what we want to do is to take one of these insights and pull them over as a more focused challenge for our brainstorming today. So let's take the work-life balance one and say, how might we help people balance work time and home time more effectively? So that's the one we're going to take forward for today's webinar. Let's keep going. The next stage, I'm going to turn it over to Mary for brainstorming.
Thank you, Jenny. I know I mentioned earlier that Jenny would be brainstorming, but I lied. I would be helping you with brainstorming. So I'm going to say I like this quote a lot, many times. So the way to get good idea is to get lots of ideas. Throw the bad ones away. But I think the key thing here is coming up with lots of good ideas. And let's look at what that means in the idea jam process. So we have a focused how might we challenge that we came up with after looking at some of the observations and insights. One of the things that we look at, especially in a team setting, is looking at the idea brainstorming rule. We like this a lot. It's easy, it's simple, easy to understand, but sometimes very hard to implement. So let's look at what those are. Defer judgment, encourage wild ideas, build on the ideas of others, stay focused on topic, one conversation at a time, be visual, and go for quantity. So allow yourself to think without constraints to begin with, because there will be opportunities to refine as you go along. But one of the things that we like to do when brainstorming is applying a lot of different tools, because when we brainstorm, you probably experience this as well. At some point, you feel like you hit a wall. So at that time, we like to apply tools such as Crazy Eights and river jumping to help kind of break down that barrier. So when we brainstorm, we talked about some of the collaboration component, building on each other's ideas, and you might be wondering, like, how would I do that virtually, and how would I not talk over one another? A great thing is that, you know, when we are applying this to Idea Jam on Sprintbase, we will be utilizing the whiteboard feature that allows us to collaborate effectively and ideate and come up with lots of great ideas. So testing out some of one of the tools that I mentioned earlier, river jumping. You might be wondering, what is that? What is river jumping? Or you might be already familiar with it. So the way we apply river jumping to brainstorming is first selecting a random stimulus that has nothing to do with your challenge, and looking at the key attributes of what make that stimulus successful or not successful, and applying that to your particular opportunity and trying to come up with as many ideas as possible. So as we've been doing, we're gonna make you exercise your fingers again. So let's jump onto our next using our Zoom chat. I know many of us might be frequenting the streaming service, so it doesn't have to be Netflix, but tell us, what are some of the key attributes that you've experienced of Netflix? Subscription service, yes. Lots of series available. If you like this, you'll like this. Yes, the suggestion feature. the favoriting function, so it's also easy to find what you favorited. Different profiles for various users. Searching. There's a library of things to watch, stop and start. So on demand, allow watch multiple seasons. Yes, the pause feature. So there are a lot of user-friendly features baked into this one particular platform. So you see Colin here helping us capture some of that. So we've shared some of the attributes of Netflix. Now let's think about how we can apply that to the challenge of helping people balance work time and home time. So if talking about the autoplay the next episode, so there's like the easy feature, you don't have to click and it already takes you to the next, your desired episode. How might we apply that to an idea? Autoplay, it's time to stop working, so maybe it pops up on your screen. Autoplay, it's time to play, maybe even better. Or autoplay, start the margarita machine, right? Great, what about, let's try one more process for stopping and starting work. Yes, meaning pick up where you left off. Yes, making that easy for people. What about suggested for you feature that Netflix has? How do you think we can apply that to the challenge? Pause button for work, yes. The suggestion feature we identified. The recommendation, suggesting it's time for break. Suggesting it's time to exercise, get some fresh air maybe. Sending you a funny video clip. Affinity groups of coworkers facing similar home situations, yes. Be a way to network with one another. It's great. Wonderful. I mean, even just from brainstorming this 2 minutes with you, we come up with a lot of different ideas just around helping people balance work and home time, looking at the attribute of Netflix, which, I mean, I guess there's some kind of relations to it, but different. So as you can see, you can think of other successful things, like sometimes we look at, video games, sometimes we look at fast food to apply to the new innovation challenge. And when you identify some of the key attributes of what makes a service or product successful, you can see how you might apply that to a challenge you're facing. All right, so let's jump into the next slide with Jenny.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So we've tried to give you an overview today of our new offer, Idea Jam, which is a free 1-hour team-based session for you to tackle a particular challenge using some of the creative tools of design thinking. It's easy to do. You simply go onto the Bridge website on the homepage and register for an Idea Jam. We'll follow up with you and work with you to define the challenge and identify the team members that you'll want to bring to your brainstorming session, schedule it, and launch it. And spend an hour together experiencing Sprintbase, exploring your challenge, identifying a research plan, and then brainstorming some possible ideas. This should be a great kickstart for you in applying some of the design thinking and creative tools back in your own team environment for all the challenges that you're facing in the COVID era. So any questions from you guys today? I know that we're right at time. I'm going to just give you an opportunity. If you do, you can post those in the chat. Well, something that we have designed as a part of our outreach to our clients and our community, a way to use design thinking to help us get ready for the future. Okay, it's simple to do, it's free, and it's 1 hour. You just click and register and we'll be in touch with you to schedule it. Okay, let's keep going. So I want to thank you for joining our webinar today on Idea Jam, a new offer from Bridge Innovate. Is an outreach to our community to help our clients in our community identify new brainstorming ideas to deal with the post-COVID era or I guess the existing COVID era, and redefine their future. So just a free jumpstart of creativity for your teams. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you again on another Inspire series with Bridge Innovate.